Woodstorks have been a member of this wetland community probably since the early 1980s. Prior to that, the majority of woodstork populations nested in Florida. And as that habitat became compromised, woodstorks began looking for other habitat. And so wetlands such as these in coastal Georgia on the barrier islands became critical as they provided the architecture of the kind of nesting habitat that's absolutely mandatory for their success. Years have been spent by the Sea Island Company figuring out the architecture of this community we call Frederica and how to build a community for people around this remarkable biological engine we call a wetland.
We have endangered species here that we know are here, and we have some habitat where endangered species might exist, and not just animals and birds, but plants, salamanders, things that small. And because we know the habitat is here, we know that at least one endangered species is here, we have to be really careful when we develop the land.
Frederica is probably Sea Island's most distinctive and unusual development. On 3,000 acres, we'll have less than 400 home sites. That's unheard of in today's real estate development times. But we've done so very carefully. We've done so with an eye toward blending what is already a very beautiful environment with a tastefully thought out and delivered real estate development.
Developing with wildlife in mind, making sure we worked around the trees, worked around what was existing bodies of water to try to tie them together, to give people the views of the lake, but still be back in the woods to keep the natural beauty of the area, especially in the area of the woodstorks, a rookery. We've worked it out where there is nature trails where you can become part of that, but there's definitely a buffer zone that's essentially a no-touch zone as far as construction is concerned. We've also, during construction, we have certain seasons that we're allowed to work. It works out well. We've scheduled it in advance. We know when we can work, when we can't. There's been no issues. It's a very good partnership so far.
When we think of the rookery, you think of is the rookery itself, and it's the wetland. Around that is a 500-foot primary zone, which really no one can enter. That centerpiece and the 500-foot primary zone is protected in perpetuity.
I think what we've established here at Frederica is great balance between the needs of residential development and the demands of being good stewards to the environment. And I think we've accomplished that beautifully here.
The project here has been ongoing, and discussions with Sea Island Company have been going on for a number of years, and with great levels of cooperation during that period. And they listened to our interest and incorporated our comments on their plans for the development up here.
I think it's important to know that the company will not, actually we cannot, sell all the lots and then leave. We have a continuing responsibility, which we've assumed, we're happy to have assumed it, to look after this land. We have a responsibility to continue to monitor the woodstork.
Our Georgia barrier islands have the benefit of having a tremendous amount of this wetland habitat. And woodstorks, which are on the federal endangered species list, have over the millennia developed this relationship with alligators in regard to their success in nesting.
They need the water under them, which brings in alligators, and although the alligators periodically benefit from a chick or two falling out of the nest, they form a vital part of a rookery by keeping land predators, particularly raccoons, away from the base of the trees that the storks are nesting in. Raccoons can, if the water levels drop and we have a dry year like we are having now, the raccoons can climb up into these trees and literally systematically wipe out a whole colony. They'll raid all the nests in the trees they can reach. So the alligators are performing a really vital role in maintaining the health of the wetland where the birds are nesting.
Woodstorks are just extraordinary birds. The wetlands that they live in coastal Georgia and here at Frederica, have a lot of food resources available to them, and they are tactile feeders. So, in other words, they catch their food by feel, not by visual hunting acuity.
They can fly 40 miles to find food for the young. They get way up on thermals. They sail up with the vultures and the eagles, and then you'll see them start to orient to wherever they're headed, and they just glide. They can glide for 20 to 30 miles just hanging up there with big wings.
Well, wetlands are magical spots. There's so many moments of wonder.
For many years, Sea Island has worked together with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Georgia Department of Natural Resources on a plan to protect our woodstorks and the wetland which supports the woodstorks. We have developed a formal agreement with these agencies protecting the woodstorks and wetland in perpetuity. Within this agreement, we have covenants all residents should adhere to and that Sea Island is committed to enforcing. We are hopeful that every owner and prospective owner will understand the importance of these covenants, which ensure the integrity of these habitats